In times of trauma and adversity, we must create space for connection by sharing a story of hope. Welcome to Stories of Hope Worldwide, hosted by Kerry Atherton. This podcast shares inspiring stories of individuals who have faced significant challenges and emerged stronger, offering hope and resilience to listeners all over the world. Join Kerry, the founder of Stories of Hope, every week to hear these remarkable journeys and find strength to overcome your adversity. Now, let's listen in to this week's conversation.
Welcome to another episode of Stories of Hope Worldwide. I'm Kerry Atherton and I'm your host. And today's guest is a great friend and one of our Stories of Hope Worldwide storytellers, Matt Towner. Welcome, Matt.
Thank you very much, Kerry. And the first thing I want to say is I want to both thank you and congratulate you for everything you do with Stories of Hope, your seminar series, your book series, and your podcast series, because I know more than anyone how much hard work all of those things are and how much a labour of love it is. So thank you from all of us who have ever listened, read, or been to any of those incredible things that you do. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Matt. That's lovely. It means so much to have the support of great people like yourself.
Yes.
And you certainly have one heck of a story. In 2009, you had a catastrophic accident in the jungle in Thailand where you broke nearly every bone in your body, your back, and you said in your book that it was the best thing that happened to you.
Yes. And I still believe that today. That was in 2009. It's funny, a very dear friend of mine, actually a beautiful man who's the brother of the late, great Michael Hutchence, the lead singer of In Excess.
Yeah.
And his brother, who's an incredible creative artist in his own right, and also a fellow author who's written a book and been picked up by the same international publishers as I have. He said to me recently, mate, we're sick of hearing your near-death story. And I get that. I'm sick of hearing it myself, but it continues to be retold in so many ways, you know, and whether that's personally or professionally, whether it was through my book series and through your book series, through podcasts, and I'm now looking at television things, but also even in projects that I do in my real estate and investment life, because people always keep asking me, you know, you need to tell people because it's so important to have good investments because things can go wrong. So it keeps getting retold. But I thought for what you do, you know, people can Google you or I, and they can find my stories that are with you in your book series. I've spoken at your seminar series. But I think it's important, especially in this day and age now, because we all have accidents of some sort in our lives. But the recovery process, it's a long one. In fact, it's lifelong. And there's so many people now suffering. And we've all sadly lost friends, either to suicide or just to living a very depressed or addicted to painkillers or other substance life. And I know you and I, that's our passion is, and why we keep telling our stories, trying to help people to realize that with the power of positive thinking, you can have an incredible life regardless of what happens to you, even if you've got metal ankle, metal spine, brain damage, post-traumatic stress, all the things I have. There are people who have no limbs that you and I both know that are incredible people with incredible lives. So it's just trying to help people. So I think that's really important.
Yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it? So he's heard your story many of times, but many people that will listen to this podcast haven't.
Yes.
And how do we know that there's not somebody sitting alone in their lounge room in the depths of depression after an accident right now who thinks, am I going to make it? But hearing a story of hope can change someone's life forever because there's proof that, well, if Matt can make it, I can make it too.
Yeah, I agree with that. And even just in the last week, I've sent my little video clip, which people can find on YouTube that tells my story that I will retell for you. And I can do it verbatim these days, so I can do you the short version. But I have a dear friend of mine who just had a brain hemorrhage, which I had, which was very scary for her. It was a brain clot out of nowhere. She's still in hospital right now in Sydney. And I send my love to Catherine, as we all do. But just to encourage her that, again, it's so easy to slip into a negative mindset And I truly believe in the power of positive thinking because in my case, I had a motorcycle accident in the middle of the jungles of Thailand, just being wild and free on a dirt bike, and came over the top of the hill and got a bit of air and ended up tumbling down that hill with the motorbike basically inside me. The handlebars went through my stomach, came out my spine. I landed at the bottom of the mountain. I fractured my skull, my spine, my ankle, my knee, my shoulder, my elbows, broke 3 ribs, perforated my lungs, and had a brain hemorrhage in the middle of nowhere. I was with a very dear friend of mine. The backstory is that we had a property overlooking Byron Bay, 50 acres, which we loved. But the global financial crisis had changed our whole circumstance, and we literally couldn't hold on to that property anymore. And sadly, I think we're going to go into that time now. That was 2009 that I had my accident. And I do think we're now at 2026, 2027. The next 3 years are going to be very tough for people all over the world.
I know that when that happened, when you spoke at Stories of Hope, you mentioned that there's nobody in sight for miles, but then all of a sudden people just came from nowhere.
Yes, and anyone who's spent any time in Asia, and I love Thailand, I've been going there every year, more than once a year since 1991. And I love the people, I love the place, I love the culture. But there are people come from everywhere, even though you're in the middle of the forest and you think you're on your own in this deep, dark jungle, there were people came from everywhere and there were people all around me. I had no idea who they were or where they'd come from. My friend Dave didn't want me to see his face, so he held back because he said I was in 4 pieces.
Oh.
There was a man in a uniform. I still to this day don't know who, whether it was police or security, and he said, okay, ambulance. Because I knew I'd broken my back straight away, but I could hardly speak because I'd perforated my lungs and broken all my ribs. But then, to my dismay, they picked me up and put me on the back of a truck. And I spent 40 minutes in the back of a truck with my head was wide open, my eyes filling with blood, and I was going in and out of consciousness, in and out of death, literally going down a tunnel, saying goodbye to friends and family as heading to the light while I'd wave swelling salts under my nose and bring me back, and 4 people holding me down the 4 parts of my body that were all sort of in bits and pieces.
Can I stop you there, Matt? You were heading towards the other side and
yes,
you were heading towards the light. What exactly were you seeing? Because we're talking about a near-death experience here.
Yep.
For obviously not everyone's had one. I've had one, and I didn't see any light or I just saw darkness. But yeah, what did you see?
For me, it's interesting. I had a rugby upbringing. My father, who's still alive today at 90 years old, is still a rugby tragic, and that's rugby union. He wouldn't have even watched the Rugby League State of Origin last night. He's rugby, and he used to joke before my brother and I could walk or talk, we didn't have to play rugby, but if we didn't, we wouldn't be in the will. My parents begged. My mother was a school teacher, so she wanted us to have a good education. They begged, borrowed, never stole to send us to a good school, and it was a very good rugby school. And when you're playing rugby, which a lot of people would have seen, people form a tunnel for the team to run out.
Oh, yeah.
And when I was in that back and forth from life and death, it was like I was running down a tunnel at either side of rows of friends and family faces from childhood through to Dave, who was literally on the side of the road as I was being taken away in the truck. And it was just as I kept coming in and out of consciousness, I was sort of going down that path toward the end, just saying goodbye to people, and then I'd come back again and then down the path again and come back again. I've traveled the world. I always have. Well, before my accident, I still do as much as I can. I always have. I learned more in my first year of travel than I did in 3 years of university. But the South American Indians, their ceremonies, the ayahuasca ceremonies, they call it the little death. And it's very similar. You start to clearly remember faces from your childhood, from your past, important people to you. And that's literally the only way I can explain what happened to me. And then I woke up 3 days later and luckily in a 5-star private hospital after 3 days in a coma, and my travel insurance, which I'm the biggest fan of all insurance, and I try to encourage it. People are sick of hearing that too, but $200,000, 3 months intensive care. And Thailand and America are 2 of the worst countries in the world for that. If you don't have insurance or a credit card to put on the table, they will leave you in the waiting room and you will bleed to death.
Oh, gosh.
So insurance is so very important. I still know people who travel without insurance, and I think that's crazy. So that's one of the biggest life lessons I try to share. after literally still being lucky enough to have my life. The other crazy one that you'll enjoy, I've spoken to many specialists since. Most people end up in a wheelchair. It's not the broken spine, which now my spine's metal, but I had a broken spine, spent 40 minutes in the back of a truck, but it's the broken spinal cord that then makes you paraplegic. Your spinal cord is that fragile that it's like a string of toothpaste. So the fact of that string of toothpaste did not break in 40 minutes on dirt roads through the jungles in the back of a truck being held down by 4 people is a miracle.
It sure is, Matt. And I remember you saying when you spoke that you remember thinking, and we started off with this, saying to yourself, this will be the best thing, the worst thing and the best thing that's ever happened to me. Why did you say it'd be the best thing that's ever happened to you?
It's a really interesting one. I consider myself, even though my mother was a devout Catholic all during my childhood, but I went to a non-denominational school, so I wasn't a religious school. That I went to a boarding school at 12 years old. It was more of a rugby school, really, but it was a very good school, got great education, great friends. People either love or hate boarding school. For me, it was like a big resort, especially after coming from a farm and a school of 20 kids in the whole school. But I'm a very spiritual person now in my life. Especially, I left Australia, private schoolboy rugby player, and came back a gem dealing gypsy. So it's a total opposite life. So I'm very much.
Talk more about that too later, because that's very interesting.
But if whatever you believe in, whether it's religion, it's spirituality, whether it's God, Buddha, whatever your faith, it wasn't me. It was my voice, but it wasn't me. If that makes sense, it was a booming voice. When I first opened my eyes and came out of that 3 days of coma, I said, this is going to be the best thing that ever happened to you. It was clear as day. And I truly know that because in my recovery, which then wasn't just 3 months, it was 3 years. In fact, it's ongoing. I still have my ups and downs and highs and lows, mentally and physically. But I've met people who had a lot less accidents than me. Some just falling off a push bike and are still addicted to painkillers and are constantly complaining. And I truly believe it's that mindset, the fact that I had that booming voice to say that I still remind myself every day that I open my eyes, that's the best thing that's happened to me. I'm lucky. We're all lucky to be alive. The chances of even being born the first time are 1,000,000 to 1. So to have a second chance, I just keep trying to do the best I can.
Oh, yeah, that's so great.
And that's
That's a message of hope right there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Getting that message at a time like that when you're in a hospital bed and you don't know what your future holds, to have that message.
For weeks, I didn't know if I'd walk or not. I didn't even want to phone my parents until I knew whether I was actually going to be able to walk or not.
Yeah. And to have that message that this is going to be the best thing that ever happened to you, great message of hope right there.
And it is something there are times I still have my dark times, which everybody does to different extremes. And I have to remind myself of that very much so, especially as you and I, and again, full credit to you, Stories of Hope. This is a story of hope. But I know the same with my book series, Travel Tales, and all of the things I've been trying to do internationally with that. It costs us time and money. Sometimes people are going, where's my money for speaking at your seminar or for writing in your book series or for sharing the story? It's costing us. Hundreds of thousands of dollars over the time we've been doing this, but we can't stop doing it because this is what we're here for.
Absolutely. And I'm very grateful to you because I got some random email quite some time ago, and it was inviting me to share a story in your traveller's book and talk about divine intervention, because I thought to myself, I've got nothing to do with travelling. Why am I getting this random email? And it must have been something picked up by the Stories of Hope. And then I thought, I've actually got a story to share of mine and my hubby's 25th Thailand trip to hell. It was like the trip to hell.
Yes.
And I thought, I always loved writing, and I always dreamed of writing a book, but I thought, maybe I'll write that up and submit it. And then when it was accepted, I was so excited. And that was the start of me then wanting to put some books together myself. So I'm really grateful to you, Matt, for that opportunity.
Yeah, it's been great. And then I've been a part of your book series. You've been a part of mine. I'm trying to even remember now, it was one of the other authors in my book series who highly recommended you. But it was all just so organic. We are a community. You have your Stories of Hope community, my Travel Tales communities. Now that a lot of those have crossed paths. Some of my writers have spoken at your seminars and vice versa, and the same with our book series. And now, very interestingly, as we move into these whole new worlds of podcasts and AI television series and all sorts of strange things that will happen in the next few years, which, again, we've all got to be positive about.
Yeah, that's it. And that's why we both love that saying that I always say, together is better, don't do life alone.
Oh, totally. Takes a village.
Yeah. And I only just spoke this morning, and you might remember Jason Dacey. He's the radio presenter from 101 and 4BC, and he's been, working overseas with so many different, presenting opportunities, and the BBC. Anyway, so we were just having a chat about Men's Health Week.
Okay.
And it's great that I've got you on today because it's a very important topic, and it's Men's Health Month at the moment, or Men's Health Week this month. And one of the things that I talked about was the latest statistics that I'm involved with an organisation on the board of directors for mentoring men. And one of the statistics that they recently came up with in a survey that they did was that 53% of men between the age of 35 and 50 experience loneliness.
Yes.
And so that's why I love having these chats, and being part of a wider community where together we can all join to make a ripple effect of hope.
And it's funny that you say that. I was just talking to a very dear friend of mine in the last few days, who a very dear friend of his sadly just recently jumped off Mount Tamborine.
Oh.
Which is quite one of those hot spots.
Oh, gosh.
And the police officer involved in the investigation, if you will, was talking to my friend who's just shattered. I'm absolutely shattered. And the police officer said, you have to, I feel for you. Please don't take my stoic stance as that I don't care, but I deal with this on a daily basis. He said, I was on the front lines of the pandemic, the COVID pandemic between Queensland and New South Wales, which personally I think was one of the greatest overreactions in history, especially in this country where no state seemed to be able to work out what they were doing with each other, and governments all over the world went into crazy different rules and regulations, and then companies made squillions. But at the same time, statistically, 11 million people globally died in that period. But the interesting part is this police officer who's in the front lines of that, trying to deal with all that chaos, said that pandemic was nothing. The pandemic now is suicide, especially, as he said, in that male age bracket. He said the statistics are just growing daily. It's getting out of control, and that's a bigger pandemic than any COVID ever was.
Wow, that's
globally
incredible to hear, isn't it? Alarming. And something that we're both, as you mentioned before, working in trying to prevent and an early intervention.
Yes.
Because it is preventable.
And it is about to be our village, this village atmosphere. About community, whether it's not just family and friends, even helping a stranger, those great T-shirts that I've been. So I once registered a company called Positivities to have T-shirts with positive slogans. So even in the street, you can cheer someone up. And that's starting to happen now, which is great. But it's just really sad. But I read recently, because I do a lot of reading in these areas. I've watched every documentary you can imagine on all sorts of things, especially when I go through my down periods, because when I'm, since my accident especially, and a lot of people go through this, your fight or flight mechanism is out of whack. And especially as men, from caveman days, we were hunters and gatherers. And this article said that even our fathers and our grandfathers still had perhaps more credit, for lack of a better word, for hunting and gathering, because that wasn't only a few generations ago where women were, had the hardest job in the world by taking care of the family and raising children, and men, were able to provide. But those days are gone. It's very hard for not have two people working, to have everything happening. And then there's this displaced generation of men, because the younger generation coming through, they've sort of already got through this whole equality. And when women can do whatever they want, which is right. They can make their own money. They can buy their own clothes. They can do their own things. they don't take on this weight of
Yeah.
feeling like they've got to be the hunter, the gatherer, the provider. And there's a very displaced generation somewhere between that baby boomers, the 70-year-old plus who lived that era, to then the 20-somethings who are now got a whole new type of relationship happening between whether it's men and women or even men and men, women and women, whatever it is. There's this middle ground of people who are feeling very lost. And that's statistically what this article said. And interestingly, what this police officer standing at the top of Mount Tambourine, where people just keep jumping off it, said too. That's exactly the demographic. It's that sort of 25 to 55-year-old men are just in their droves lost.
Yeah, and emotionally locked up, because what was modelled to specifically those guys, you know, in the 40 to 55 age bracket,
Yep.
what was modelled to them by most of the fathers was eat cement, harden up, don't talk about your feelings. And when that's been modelled to you from childhood, it's very hard to let go of those beliefs
Sure.
and
Yeah.
and make that change. And that's something that we're really trying to break down, that stigma of.
Oh, totally. And again, it's finding, like everything in life, it's finding that middle ground. You don't want to get to the point where then you're too soft that you can't deal with hardship. So it's finding that middle ground. And I also believe that, you know, our whole way of relating has to be readapted. What we were given that white picket fence statistically doesn't work. And, you know, the divorce rates are at 50+% somewhere there, and that's okay. But for children and then mental health on either side to suffer because a relationship breaks down, we've got to get past all that and still work together regardless, you know, because there are ebbs and flows. You know, when I was in my 20s, I was a seminar junkie. I did every seminar. And that's, I think, probably why you and I love them so much and loved speaking at them. And again, it was always good for me. It was easy for me. But, you know, I did Rich Dad, Poor Dad, you know. I did Robert Kiyosaki. I did Anthony Robbins. I did Dan Millman, The Way of the Peaceful Warrior. But the Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus one, it was very interesting in that, you know, if you're in a relationship, you don't want to be doing that because that's too stifling. You're always going to be your own people. And sometimes you may go like that. But then sometimes you want to come back to that again. And then you do have moments of that. I think it's really important because especially mates of mine I've lost, and again, I've sadly had way too many friends commit suicide. But again, one most recently was going through a horrible divorce. He was about to lose, and again, it's sad how we can be so horrible to, especially the people we loved the most in our lives when things go wrong. He was about to lose his house and his children and literally everything. And none of us, our dear friend, saw this one coming. You know, he was not a drinker. He had no, because people straight away go, oh, drugs or alcohol. No, this guy was the most solid, loving father. And he hung himself out of nowhere. It's just, we've just got to get past this just because a relationship is going through a hard time or breakdown that then we have to be so evil to each other that it pushes people to that point. And then on the other extreme, Australia's statistics of domestic violence in this country are out of control compared to anywhere else in the world. We've got to start looking at this stuff. It's like, what the hell is going on, people?
Yeah, well, we absolutely do, and there's a lot of conversations around that, isn't there? And I will just add too that domestic violence happens to not only women but men also.
Yeah.
Because I do know a lot of men that have, and I counsel them who have been victims of domestic violence, but yes, there are proportionately a lot more women that experience that.
As you hear this story, what Kerry's discussing might be resonating strongly with you. Perhaps you've experienced something similar yourself and are looking for support. Kerry Atherton is an experienced counsellor and wellbeing coach and has private sessions available if you or someone you know needs some help. You don't have to deal with trauma, addiction, PTSD, and abuse alone. If you'd like to talk about today's episode or your own experiences, book a session with Kerry at empowerlifesolutions.com.au or check the link in the show notes and embrace a future filled with hope. Now back to the episode.
But Matt, look, let's talk more about this because you've had it all in your journey with mental health. Everything that you just mentioned about your friend, you've been through yourself. You've also been diagnosed with bipolar, PTSD, had a marriage breakdown, you've lost businesses.
Sure.
You've lived with chronic pain. So what do you say to that guy or that woman that's sitting there right now thinking that all these insurmountable problems are just closing in on them and they're just being buried under the tunnel of everything, and they feel like they don't have hope? Because you are proof that you can come out of all those things and there is a better day ahead.
Yeah. Everyone's situation is unique. It's all individual. I didn't have a depressed or an anxious moment before my accident, breaking nearly every bone in my body, and then especially splitting my head wide open and having a brain hemorrhage. Even though I fully recovered, I've still got all my bionic bits, but I've still been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress and mild brain damage. And so my symptoms are similar to bipolar. So a lot of bipolar people have that from birth or childhood, and they're often very agitated, unsettled. Sadly, it would be very hard. See, I didn't have that. I was a very good boy. I was a school prefect. I was a very good child. I had a very good childhood, very great upbringing. So it wasn't until I was 40 years old that then I had to, be firstly so lucky to be alive, lucky to be walking and talking again, all of which took some time. But then every 5 years I would have these situations, which now it's quite common that as you get older, that process speeds up. So
yeah,
I know that when I'm on, I can write a whole book series in a day. I can get films produced. I can sell whole resort projects. I can get so much done. So I do as much as I can without overdoing it, because it's easy then for me to burn myself out. So I have to be very careful. I think we all do, not to do too much. And as you know, one of the most amazing speakers I ever heard anywhere was at one of yours, the lovely lady who was the CEO of a company who was driving over the Story Bridge and decided that it was all too much and jumped, and then
Donna Thistleway. Amazing story of hope. Yeah.
She swam to the side, couldn't believe she was still alive, got back in her car soaking wet, went back to her husband and kids and back to work. And it was only 3 years later that she, like you and I, had these epiphanies and now is writing books and doing seminars and helping people. But yeah, I still, and it happened to me again recently, because every time it's gone, you think it's gone. But these things are just recurring and you've just got to be aware of it. It's like having leukemia or asthma. You'd always have to have some sort of puffer with you. To have any sort of depression or anxiety, and anxiety has only happened to me recently. Depression, I know that it can come and go, so I'm ready for it. That's why I get as much done as I can. And like you said, it takes a team. I have a very good team, whether that's in my real estate and property investment life or in my book series, in seminars, and in the filmmaking roles. So if there's a day that comes, and they do, where I go from being able to do anything and everything to then not even, it's not that I don't want to get out of bed, I can't. I can't do anything.
Yep.
So then I go press remote control, and the team knows to just keep the ball rolling. And it may be days that I just draw the curtains. I call it going back to uni. And then that's when I will go through these stages of watching every documentary there is on depression, post-traumatic stress, any of these sorts of things. So I've learned a lot about, people talk about fight or flight mechanism, which is often out of whack when you have any sort of head injury especially, or any sort of nervous breakdown or overload. It throws that out of whack, but they don't talk about the freeze.
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned it. I was just about to bring that one in, yeah.
It's unbelievable. You literally, and again, a lot of people, again, it's so, if you've never felt any of these things, you are so lucky.
Yeah.
But then to say, get over it, just get up. It's not that easy, because you know that in your head. You have to just be slowly and that's what I do. Go for a walk. Do just tick 1 or 2 boxes every day. Don't try and do 10 different projects in one day. Exercise. I'm very lucky because I'm very disciplined. I have a lot of friends, may they all rest in peace, who in these stages of depression will reach for a bottle, whether that's a bottle of alcohol, a bottle of pills, whatever it may be. That's the worst thing you can do. So I'm the total opposite of that. You have to have your triggers, and if I know I'm starting to feel a little bit not myself, that's the last. I'm not booking dinner appointments and lunches and wining and dining, because I do the opposite. That's the time to start doing yoga, meditation, get back to the gym, do the lighthouse walks, do the beach walks, the bush walks, get into nature. You've got to. It's finding that balance and knowing when those things are coming. But sometimes it still doesn't stop it. And then it really is a challenge, but it's yourself. You're challenging yourself.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic what you just said. And I was going to go there and you beat me to it, thank goodness, because it's such important stuff. Something that I talk to, which you just mentioned, to all my clients is about learning to identify your triggers.
Yes.
Because when we learn to identify our triggers, we're not taken by surprise when something does trigger us.
Yes.
And I say to them, it's like putting money in the bank for when you have bills coming in.
Yeah. 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 Exactly.
You're not caught off guard. So as you have, I've got many triggers and I've become aware of them all. I'm very self-aware like you now. I've had to it's something we have to learn.
Yeah, it does take a long time. It's taken me a long time. I'm 57 years old. I had my accident when I was 40. And I struggled with these cycles for a long time until I got to that point that, every time it's gone and I'm taking on the world again, I now know it's not gone. It'll come back.
Yeah.
Be ready for it. And when those days come, I've got systems in place to go, okay, I can take some time out. I need to take some time out, and I'm going to take some time out.
Matt, people come to me and they are like, I'm feeling anxious.
Yeah.
No, I want some
Anxiety's the worst.
for the anxiety in my life, or I'm feeling sad and I want some support for the sadness in my life, or I've got an anger problem that's out of control.
Yeah.
And what I do is I sit down with them. Sometimes they can't even put that together either. They just feel really bad and they don't know why. Yeah. And so I sit down and I say, okay, let's draw four boxes, and one's happy, sad, anxious, and I use the word frustrated because a lot of people say, oh, I don't really feel that angry. It's more frustration. And in the anxiety box, it's really fear at the base of that. But a lot of people can't kind of identify with the fear, but they can identify with being anxious. So I ask them, I say, okay, what causes you to feel these things and what is your main default? And once they can actually sit down and go, I feel anxious when this happens, when that happens, or this makes me feel angry, that's the start of them building their awareness around triggers.
Yes.
And it's such a quick and easy, fantastic exercise that anybody can sit down and do.
And it's in little exercises like that do make a big difference. Again, there's not only the triggers that you've got to be aware of, but then how you can unwind yourself as quickly as possible.
That's it.
You love this. And firstly, I find everything funny. A lot of people don't find that funny. So
you got me laughing right now.
And I'm an extremist, so I understand and I commiserate. And sadly, I know way too many people have committed suicide. But anyone who is feeling like that, please call me anytime. I've been there. I've weighed up the rafters. I've thought about how I would do it. I would never do it even when I'm in the deepest of my depressions. I'm not going to jump off a cliff. I'm going to jump on a plane and go on another adventure and see another part of the world I haven't seen.
And why, Matt?
I think that's always been my passion for a start. Everything I've done in my life is to travel. Every business venture.
You love life.
Yeah, and because I've never been someone to just go on a holiday and sit by the pool. I don't really do holidays. I'm either going to write a book or investigate a real estate project or buy diamonds and sapphires and rubies, pearls and opals and whatever I might want. Every country in the world has different, not only adventures, different opportunities. And I've been doing that since I was 20 years old. So, but it was interesting that this time last year, so then after doing that since I was 20, I'm now 57. And again, it was my own fault. I took on way too much, as I do, being an extremist. But I literally went around the world. In that 3-month period, I went to LA to film a television series, and I had to go to Miami as part of that process. Then I went on to Europe to look at a real estate project that then I was helping out with in Bali and in Thailand. So literally I did that whole loop in 3 months and basically 4 or 5 different big projects all at the same time. And then I got back to Australia and literally fell into a heap. Totally.
I remember that time. You were very quiet. Yeah.
Really interesting that, because I've been through stages of depression before, but anxiety, wow, you wouldn't wish that on your worst enemy. So it's interesting that you're talking about the questions, because the weirdest one for me was, which again, I really enjoy trying to work out what makes us tick. So it was a cycle of patterns. Some days I would wake up, literally I couldn't get out of bed. I could keep telling myself, okay, go for a walk, go to the gym. But you're drawing the curtains. I was even if I did force myself to go, I'd get in the car and I'd be hiding. If I'd see people I knew, I didn't want to see them. I even remember being in a service station and a very dear friend walked in. I'm hiding behind the aisles, which is so not me. I'm such a social person.
Yeah.
But the worst one was then some mornings I would wake up and the first thing that happened, literally I'm straight out of bed, pacing and hyperventilating and having a panic attack, which I'd never had before, like even since my accident.
Right.
And they are the worst. I had no idea why. I'm lucky to be alive. I have a good life. I've got money in the bank. I've just traveled the world. I've just got all these projects that I'm ticking boxes with. I have nothing to be scared of or anxious about. But again, in my own, then because I've tried everything. I've been to doctors, therapists, hypnotherapists, shamans, crystal healers, you name it, I've done it. And you learn a little bit from every different type of therapy or belief, whether they're ancient ones or modern ones. But yeah, it's basically, again, the system of being out of whack, so fight, flight, or freeze, that literally, it's almost in caveman days, you'd be running from a dinosaur. Literally, I'm not running from anything. I don't know why I was waking up I'm not a big fan of medications. So I know that they have their place, and I've been through a process of being diagnosed or being prescribed antidepressants and mood stabilizers, but I just don't want to go down that road. So, and this is a very good tip for anyone having a hard time. I went through a process called transmagnetic stimulation.
Oh, I've heard that's fantastic.
It is, yeah. So basically, and again, I had to really psych myself up to get it out of bed and out of bed and into the car, because sometimes still in the car, I'm literally driving and hyperventilating, like, and literally not wanting anyone to see me, and just so bizarre. And it's just so not me. It's like, and I'm going mad here. But it's a physical. What is it? It is. I'd taken on too much. My brain had overloaded itself. And it basically just, that's what happened to me. It was an overload.
You were like trapped in a hypervigilant state. And I've had that happen to me as well. And that right there, that's post-traumatic stress. Yeah,
that's that in its most extreme. So with CMS, it's called, and you can Google it and you'll find it near you. They put this skull cap on you with all these little electrode readers. And whether you've had an accident as serious as I have, or just your day-to-day life and the stress life, you have left and right brain. We all have different, and it's often out of whack. And so it will read through this computer system that the doctors are looking at which side of your brain is out of whack. And then I got it all on Medicare. I don't know whether that's still possible now. It changes all the time. This was only a year ago, so it cost me nothing to then do that every day for 20 minutes for 7 weeks, Monday to Friday. I'd go and sit in almost a dentist chair and put these magnetic, it doesn't hurt. You can feel it. It's just tick, tick, tick. And it's because our body's there's electricity, there's neurons, there's basically resetting what's the imbalance in your brain chemistry at that time. So I did that for 7 weeks. That would be now probably 18 months ago. I feel great. And for me, that was better than medication. It doesn't work for everyone, but neither does medication. And again, it's even the specialists have said it, because again, I think, great, I'm cured. I may have to go back and do that again at some stage in my life. I don't know. There's never guarantees. But again, it's about, firstly, I'm not going to overload myself that much and take on 10 different projects in half a dozen different countries and try and get them all done in 3 months, because that was my own fault for doing that to myself. And again, I'm 57 years old. I keep thinking I'm still 27.
I think that's the thing that really helped me recover from that too, and that anxiety around that was taking the pressure off.
Yes.
I love projects as well, and love life and love to be looking forward to something and have to have a purpose. But sometimes that can become overwhelming, especially when we've experienced a lot of trauma and a lot of stress in our life.
Yes.
So really knowing that and being switched into that. And I think that you just do that so well.
Yeah. Well, you're seeing me now at my best, thankfully, because I'm so happy.
Seeing you at your best and your worst.
Yeah, totally. Because, and again, I'm I'm quite now, and again, a lot of people say, "Oh, you shouldn't tell people about these bad times." I'm the opposite of that. And anyone out there who's going through it, because if you haven't felt that, I draw the curtains. I don't answer the phone. I don't want to see anyone. Like I said, that's ridiculous that I'm hiding in supermarket shelves because I don't want to see friends. But it's bizarre. It's like another person, not as extreme. Obviously, in all of my symptoms, I'm very lucky. I'm very mild. I have a great doctor friend of mine who has a great sense of humour. We're all bipolar until proven otherwise. But yeah.
Why do you think people say to you that you shouldn't tell people?
There's still this stigma about any sort of mental health. Yeah, I'm quite proudly tough. I have my ups and downs. And again, if you don't want to see me or be a part of my life, my worst, then you're not getting me in my best. See you later.
I love that. Yeah. You've got two of the magic or golden ingredients for hope.
Yeah.
That I talk about a lot, and that is connection and purpose.
Yes.
And being somebody who's recovered from addictions myself, alcohol and pills, the two things that are needed for somebody to recover from addictions, and I believe any kind of trauma, is those two things, purpose and connection with like-minded or healthy people.
Totally. I love that we're like yin and yang because I'm very lucky. I don't have an addictive personality. I've been able to take or leave anything in my life, and I've tried everything, you name it, except gay sex or heroin, each to their own, apparently incredible together, just not my bag. But pretty much everything else I've tried. But I can put things down and get on with my life. I get back to work every Monday morning. But Netflix, a good TV Netflix series, that'll get me addicted. And that's my cave, that's it. But
we're all addicted.
I call it research because I'm turning my book series into a TV series now.
Oh, that's right. But look, in reality, we're all addicted to something.
Oh, of course.
But the question is that thing driving and destroying your life?
I get on because people have got to take personal responsibility. A tradesman can't blame their tools. Certainly, whether it's sugar is more addictive than anything else. Sugar, heroin, alcohol, gambling, all of these things. If you can feel if it's affecting your children, your marriage, your job, your career, your passion path, you've got to stop it. But that's up to you. You've got to take personal responsibility. You can't necessarily always blame that tool, whatever it is.
I'm addicted to earrings now.
Yes, you are.
And I have been fit for a few years now, but they don't cost me my relationships.
That's a good one.
And they only cost a very small amount of money, especially now too that we've got Temu.
Yeah.
I bought a pair of earrings in a shop at Mooloolaba, a boutique, a couple of years ago, and they were $40. And I actually got three. I like them in all different colours. That's not an addiction, is it? No.
No, that's right.
And anyway, I saw the same earrings on Temu for $2 about 2 months ago, and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Are they the exact same earrings? And I bought them to check it out, and they're exactly the same.
Wow.
So now my earring addiction's not hardly going to cost me anything.
There you go.
And it makes me happy because it's part of my dopamine dressing.
Well, that's right.
Wearing colour actually really lifts our mood. And you'd be surprised how many people come up to me every time I'm out and say, I love the colours that you've got on. And so it brightens me up, and it always brightens someone else's day. And so that's one of my self-care strategies.
Well, when I went to Africa recently, which I'd never done before, the colour is amazing. The South Americans do it so well, and it does. It brightens up the mood of the whole culture, the whole country. It's really quite incredible what colour can do. And, of course, music. There's so many different therapies that more than just going to a doctor and getting pills, the therapy that can help for fresh air. I just went up to O'Reilly's recently, the top of the mountain, above Mount Tambourine. That fresh air is unbelievable how much it rejuvenates you.
Oh, that's great. And I love that you talk about the different therapies as well, because there are quite a new set of therapies coming through that a lot of people are not sure about. So there's the ice baths. There's all the self-care strategies that you mentioned before, which I was going to ask you about, but you've already done that. There is ketamine treatment. Cybacillus treatment, which is in a controlled environment with psychologists and psychiatrists now at different health hubs that are happening around.
MDMA therapy.
Sunshine Coast here, Thompson Brain and Mind Hub, I'll just give them a plug right now, making a huge difference. They're building an 8-story mental health integrated hospital next to SKU, because there's a lot of people that go into the mental health system voluntarily and forcibly,
Yes.
who are really, really damaged and traumatised while they're in there by that experience. So this new mental health hospital is specifically going to be created like a hotel.
Yes.
It's going to be something very, really safe feeling environment where people can go along, and the TMS that you talked about as well, and there's targeted MRIs. So there's just so much hope out there, and I'm glad that we can share that today for anybody that's struggling with their mental health.
And sadly, and this is a much bigger topic, and one that is much bigger than you or I, but I know what you and I are like. We're never going to stop. So we'll keep campaigning for all sorts of good and hope and change. And again, I'm very lucky in so many, I'm lucky every day, crazily. But I do know of friends, and even sadly friends' children who are being hospitalised right now for different mental health issues. But I think the big problem is they're going into the same institutions as, for example, ice addicts, which is a whole other epidemic that we have here in Australia.
Yeah.
That then traumatises these people more, because that's not who they are. They're going in there needing time out. And I know one single mother at the moment with a 2-year-old and a 2-month-old who's sadly in one of these places. And then there's people screaming and shouting, walking around, talking to each other and talking to themselves, arguing with themselves, because it's two very different types of treatments. And to throw them all under one roof, it is certainly, I don't think, the answer. I'm not sure what the answers are. And I have friends who are going into politics, already well into politics, and that's for them to decide. And none of these things are going to be easy. But I just know the people. I have another dear friend of mine, was one of the writers of my book series, and a very learned doctor who sadly went through a period where he attempted to commit suicide, and it didn't work. And he ended up in one of those places going, oh, no, I'm a doctor. I shouldn't be here. And they said, mate, you attempted, you're here for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Literally, he couldn't sleep because there was people just ranting and raving all night long.
Yeah, I know. There's the levels of psychosis are rising, and I believe that it's largely to do with lacing of particular drugs. There's a lot of young people that are smoking weed now, thinking that they'll just get the effect that people used to get back in the day, but the drug dealers are just lacing this stuff with ice and other drugs, and these kids don't realise. I'm getting more and more calls from parents about their kids, adult kids who have psychosis.
Yeah.
They've got them living in the house because they don't want to let them out on the streets, and there's just nowhere for them to go. There's no support for the parents, really. And so this is something that I'd love to put on an addiction summit on the Sunshine Coast. But it's a big thing, something that I'm thinking, well, hopefully I can get the support together to do that, because the more awareness we can raise to get support for these families, the safer and the greater our society will be in general. The safer people will feel in the community.
And on that note, anyone who's listening to this, and I'm hoping it's going to be lots of people all over the world, because now it's been very honouring to be involved with you and see both of our series expand, not just from our little local communities, me starting in Byron, you starting on the Sunshine Coast, but literally having global speakers involved in both. So, but anyone who does want to support you more than me, I really am a big advocate of Stories of Hope and all of the things that you want to do. But I know that we all need help, and whether that's financial or if people do have a story to tell, or whether that's to stand up and speak or be on podcasts or be in book series, but they should really reach out and find you or I or both of us together with Stories of Hope and Travel Tales, because we both need as much support as we can get. Again, people think, I'm just sick of hearing our stories, or why do you do this? We're not doing this for us at all, but we can't stop it. I'll get through many times saying, why do I do this? Stop it. But then I'll get back up and say, no, again, this is an inner calling or something to share stories of hope to help people because I know how horrible it is to go through a hard time. And I know when I was going through it, that's what got me out of it. There's a great series. It's called The Secret Life of a Manic Depressive.
Oh, right.
Which is with post-traumatic stress is a lot of what you go through.
Yeah.
By Stephen Fry, an incredible English comedian, actor, presenter. I encourage anyone and everyone to Google it, especially when I was going through my hardest times. I've watched it dozens of times. And it just, again, it makes you realize you're not alone. He interviews everyone from celebrities through to everyday people that are incredible human beings. Robbie Williams, the singer, is most amazing. You know, he'll entertain 40,000 people, then go back to his hotel room and hide under a pillow for 2 days.
Oh, I know.
Extremes.
By sharing hope, people, like you said, they know that they're not alone. And that's
that it will pass. Yeah, this too shall pass. We all go through different degrees. No one never has it. Some people are lucky enough that they have a few up and down bad days. But some people are extreme and can't get out of bed for days, weeks, months. And I've been there, done that. And there are a lot of people a lot worse than me. And if you're watching right now, and if you need help, there's so many ways you can reach out, more than Kerry and I even, and in whatever country you're in. But reach out, you know, call one of those services and realize just talk to someone. Talking helps, writing helps.
Yeah. And so it's realizing too that you might be in the middle of pain, whoever is listening right now, but you can turn that into your greatest purpose ever.
Yeah.
Matt and I have seen that happen just countless times. And something else I really want to say to everyone listening now, there's so many people that feel like their story doesn't matter or that it's insignificant or they don't have anything big to tell. Every single one of you has a story that will help change someone else's life.
And even if you're helping one person, that's enough. We hope to help millions. But and I always explain too, because you know, even where I'm going now, which I was hesitant at first with this whole AI, which we're going to have to get used to, and it's going to be very traumatic for a lot of people because even a lot of careers will disappear. But as a storyteller, especially a filmmaker, I have a film degree I never really used, and I've been wanting to turn my book series into a television series for a long time. But I can now do that. Those short stories I can turn into short films with AI for a fraction of the cost that it would cost me to make a whole television series or a feature film. I still want to do that. Of course, any artist wants to. And I think that's what will happen. All art will become more highbrow as such because we still want to use actors. We still want to do the full movie, the full television series. But if you can very shortly and sharply share your story as a visual in 10 minutes, it's going to change so much of storytelling. And if you look at civilizations, that's the future. But you go back thousands of years, any indigenous culture sat around a fire with the elders sharing their stories to the younger ones so that that's how they learn. And if we do that, we're losing civilization.
Great message at the moment when there's so much uncertainty in the world, which generates a lot of fear.
Sure.
But we have the choice whether, you know, I love the serenity prayer in AA. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. Give me courage to change the things I can and the wisdom to know the difference. And we can either reject or embrace change.
Yeah.
By embracing change, we can actually change our futures and the lives of the people around us. Matt, what has been, as we come to a close now, what's been your best day?
Oh, most recently, I have so many. I loved my wedding day. I loved getting married and I was 150% committed to being a good husband. And we did, Lainey and I, Lainey loved animals more than humans. I still love travel more than life itself.
Yeah.
And for 4 years, we laughed about being total opposites. It worked really well. And then for 4 years, we were just living total opposite lives. And so now she's happy with 15 horses and 5 dogs. And I'm happier than ever jumping on a plane. I've literally just got back from 6 weeks in Thailand. I'm about to go and do another project in Bali. And even have been offered to do a project in Hawaii. I'm a tropical island guy. And I love that. So that's my next few steps.
That's amazing. And Matt, what's your message for the world as we finish now?
Oh, definitely. Well, in this day and age, which I think we've been regressing as a human race, it's about peace and love. Come on, people. Peace and love.
Peace and love. Love one another. That's great. Matt, it's been an absolute honour, and we'll have to do a take 2 where we actually go back to the very beginning.
Yeah, sure.
Tell us about how you're a gem-dealing gypsy.
Oh, yeah, definitely we'll do that. I'll even have the visuals coming soon as part of the AI television series. So there you go.
Yeah, and you can tell us all about some of those countries that many of us have never been to.
Sure.
And you're a true inspiration, Matt, and thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you. Thank you, and love to all.
And how can people find you?
Probably the best way is just Google Matt Towner, writer, Matt Towner, real estate. I do both of those things out of my home in Byron Bay, but pretty much all over the world. I'm constantly in Indonesia and Thailand, America and Europe, and just trying to help people, really. I'm pretty much retired. But, yeah, whether it's my book series or my investments, I try to help people as much as I can. I'm always happy to.
Well, you're a quality guy, Matt, and I'm so blessed to know you, and I'm glad that you reached out to me those few years back to share my story. So thank you.
Thank you, darling.
Thank you for listening to Stories of Hope with Kerry Atherton. If this conversation helped you, please consider sharing the podcast with a friend or leaving a rating and review on your podcast player. If you'd like to find out more about Kerry Atherton, head to storiesofhope.com.au, where you can purchase her books or find her next event. Check the show notes for links and information about our guest in this episode, and remember, you don't have to walk your path alone.